UFC Baku just wrapped yesterday. The card in whole, I feel pretty meh about, but there's some fun moments in there for sure. I'm going to go through the entire card, recap every fight. Kicking off with the first fight, we had Tahir Abduliev versus Jefferson Nascimento. I had Tahir Abduliev getting this one done via decision. He ends up getting it done via round 3 TKO. Abduliev money line. I guess he was the technical underdog at -105. That cashes. But my takeaways from this fight, back to the regionals for both of them. Both of these guys looked awful. The ref looked awful. There's a terrible stoppage. Jefferson Nascimento was in no imminent danger of losing. I don't even know. He was completely with it, not even really eating that bad of shots. Ref steps in and stops him in the third round. Really bad look for that entire fight, especially after the first two rounds were literally just them dancing around each other, getting mad. It was a really just from beginning to end terrible fight. Jefferson Nascimento also looked fat as fucking fuck. Look at him on this graphic. If you saw him in the octagon the other day, it didn't even look like the same fighter. He was carrying so much more weight. I believe gets it done like I thought he would, but not really interested in talking anymore about this. This is pretty awful. The next fight on the card, though, Bekzat Almakhan and Gene Matsumoto. I haven't seen who's won any of the bonuses, but to me, this was fight of the night easily. I had Bekzat Almakhan winning by round 2 KO. Gene Matsumoto ends up getting it done via decision. Matsumoto decision cashes at 135. I said this is a good fight to just kind of hedge with itself and Almakhan money line and Gene Matsumoto money line. Personally, I think it was an awful robbery. I think Bekzat, it was closer to a 30-27 Bekzat, in my opinion, than it was a 29-28 unanimously for Gene. Bekzat had him early. He dropped him in round 1, had him in a ton of danger, let him stand back up. Gene Matsumoto lands a takedown towards the end of the first round, and one of the judges gave Gene Matsumoto round 1. Which, if you saw the fight, that is awful. I think if Gene Matsumoto just had more power and just was more clean defensively, he could be a serious problem and win these fights with a lot more conviction. But because he just doesn't have that, I don't know. Like, I thought Gene got his ass kicked, to be honest. I thought every single shot that Bekzat landed was doing much more damage or was at least getting a bigger reaction. Gene Matsumoto, even when he would land, just didn't do anything for me. And I guess I could be wrong. It could just be the fact that I took Bekzat and I was so confident in him that it was tough. But I felt the same way after the Farid Basharat fight as well. It's just tough. For somebody in Gene Matsumoto's style, it's just going to come down to super close decisions. But I think if he just had that little extra bit of power or cleanliness to his game, it would really take off. I think Gene Matsumoto is still a really good fighter. I still think Bekzat is a really good fighter, despite being 1-3 now in the UFC. I think he's really good. But this was a great fight regardless. I thought it was fight of the night. Gene Matsumoto ends up getting it done. Takes us into our next fight, Daniil Donchenko and Theodore Burgin. I had Donchenko getting this one done in round 1. He gets it done in round 2 with a really nasty head kick. Donchenko moneyline cashes at -500, and the fight not to go the distance at -365 cashes as well. Donchenko, round 1 KO at +220, was a bit ambitious. My takeaways from the fight, Theodore is actually not a total can. He looked solid and had his moments, I guess, kind of. Never really had Daniil in any danger, but he looked sharp. He was moving well. He looked athletic, lengthy. Donchenko just looks way better. He looks really good. He may need to get cleaner to win later in his career against better opponents. Better defensively. He ate some things that he took some shots that he just shouldn't have to take. But he's so much fun to watch. He's so dangerous. I just love watching him fight. And for him to go out there and win the way that he did with a really impressive head kick in round 2, good stuff from him. The next fight on the card, we had Con O'Flay and Javier Reyes. I picked Javier Reyes here to win by round 3 KO, and Con O'Flay gets it done by round 1 submission. To take away from the fight, the biggest high-value straight that we picked on the entire card almost actually hit, which I don't think has ever happened. Javier Reyes is just awful. I said in the breakdown, he keeps his hands low. He'll get caught a whole bunch. Con O'Flay lands one of those big overhands, which I said he could potentially land. And instead of TKOing and finishing him, he jumps on a submission and finishes it. They skipped the YMC walkout. What the fuck? I don't even know why I was watching this fight if they didn't show that. But good win for Con O'Flay. I think this is probably maybe my problem with the majority of the card. Even with a lot of the guys that won, I was kind of feeling the way that I am right now. I just don't really think that Con O'Flay like maybe I'm just hating because it ruined my pick. Same way with like Gene Matsumoto, and I guess we'll talk about it later in the card. I'm just not super excited about the guys that won because I think it just said more for the guys that lost, and neither of them looked really good. But I mean, it was a good win for Konofli regardless. I'm just not overly excited about it. The next fight on the card was Nursultan Ruziboyev and Andrei Polyaev. I picked Ruziboyev to get this one done via decision. He ends up getting it done via round 1 KO or round 1 submission. Ruziboyev money line at minus 225 hits. The fight does not go the distance, and Polyaev does almost nothing in the entire fight. My takeaways: offensive grappling of Ruziboyev looked great. I think I did a poor job in the breakdown, maybe talking about the grappling skill of Ruziboyev. Offensively, his grappling can be great. I don't think I hammered home that the fact that he has 20 submission wins in his entire career cannot be understated. He has great offensive grappling. He just overall looked great. Andrei Polyaev, you can go ahead and check out. We got the Contender Series coming up soon. We need to make some room. So we don't really need to have you in the UFC anymore. So he can head back to the regionals. But it was a great way to keep the card moving overall. Pretty decent fight. Ruziboyev looked huge, as he often does, even with Polyaev in there, who's also like, I think 6'4". So good stuff from Ruziboyev. He's becoming one of the better unranked guys at 185. I wouldn't mind if they gave him like a 15 kind of guy at middleweight, especially with all these middleweights going up into light heavyweight. It's going to kind of shake up the rankings. So why not? Maybe throw him somebody like a 15, or maybe like a ranked fight eliminator with one of these guys. So I like Ruziboyev. He looked great. Great way to keep the card moving into the next fight, which was Abdulrahman Yakyayev and Julius Walker. Now, before this one started, I said I was working on this video, actually. I was getting it ready, kind of updating it as the fight went on, and this fight was about to start. I closed my computer. I said, well, this one might be quick, so let me watch. I didn't know it was going to be this quick. Abdulrahman Yakyayev gets it done via round 1 TKO in 8 seconds. I think it was the second fastest knockout in UFC history. Yakyayev in round 1 cashes greatly at minus 135. My takeaways from this fight: goddamn, that was brutal and fast, and yeah, yikes. Julius Walker flew all the way out to Baku to just get slimed out in less than 10 seconds. Abdulrahman Yakyayev, though, seriously does look like a real problem at light heavyweight. Wouldn't mind if they gave him a ranked opponent next, or if they just want to build his name up a little bit more and give him somebody else. But Abdulrahman Yakyayev, that is impressive stuff. To be doing what he's doing to UFC guys in the fashion that he's doing it in, too. It's so fast. Impressive stuff for sure. But the next fight on the card, Farman Hassanov and Eric Nolan. I picked Eric Nolan to win this one by round 1 KO. Does not happen. Neither of the bets hit. Fight does not go under 1.5 rounds. This was pretty awful. Farman Hassanov just kind of looks like not Marab. It's like Pat Sabatini. He just kind of looked like welterweight Pat Sabatini out there, holding Eric Nolan up against the cage. Set the record, I think, for most welterweight takedowns in an entire fight. He had like 19 or something. Eric Nolan was scrambling. He was working really hard to get back up to his feet. I don't think it's his fault that this fight was boring. He was trying to dig deep. I was getting fired up for him. Doesn't work out. Farman Hassanov gets it done via decision. Hassanov looks like, I said, welterweight Marab. That's not true, but I do hate him, and that was an awful performance. I'm not ashamed of the Eric Nolan pick at all. I think if he just had a little bit more gas and just maybe fought the fight a little bit smarter, he would have been better off. He did make some mistakes for sure on the ground. I said that in the breakdown as well. The grappling IQ of Nolan scared me, but he didn't look terrible. He was still working really hard, still scrambling, had some great moments. Hassanov gets a dominating win in his home country. Good debut, I guess. But I'm not really, this is another one where the winner of the fight, I'm not really interested in what's going to happen next for him. So kind of took away from the excitement of the card. But the next fight on the card, we had Abus Magomedov and Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. I picked Magomedov to get this one done via decision. He ends up getting it done via round 1 submission. It was a stunning sub, I believe. He caught Mikhail with an elbow coming in. I had the fight going over 2.5 rounds. No, and Mikhail KO. No, I should have been more confident in the Abus Magomedov pick. I think it was actually a complete pick'em at the time of the fight. They were both minus 115, and I didn't really get that at all. If I would have known that, I would have been a little bit more confident or willing to put a Abus Magomedov money line on there, because I think it was good value. But my takeaways from the fight: Macau just looked like Macau, unfortunately. Just too reckless, wants to walk forward, couldn't really get over the reach disadvantage that he had in the fight. And Abus likely fights inside the rankings next. He looked great. Good stuff from him, but again, I'm just not really overly excited about what's next for Abus. So unfortunately, Macau does not win. You got to keep him in the UFC because he's not completely worthless, but it's just like it's getting to a point where it's like, what are we doing, Macau? Like, what are we doing? I don't know. But the next fight on the card, Ikram Aliskerov and Bruno Ferreira. I picked Bruno Ferreira to get this one done via round 1 KO. That does not happen. Ikram Aliskerov gets done via decision. Bruno does not knock him out, sadly, and the fight does not end within the distance. Two guys with some of the shortest average fight times in UFC history and some of the highest finishing rates on the entire card go the distance because, of course, they did. That was the first parlay leg that misses, I believe, as well. Takeaways from the fight: Ikram just dominated the entire fight, used his sambo background. Bruno sadly just couldn't get it done. He just couldn't get anything going. It felt like he pulled guard a bunch of times for no reason, ended up just being on his back for the rest of the round. Couldn't get past the reach disadvantage either. Was trying to blitz in, land some big shots, just couldn't get it done. Ikram gets the win. And again, I don't care what's next for Ikram because I'm just not interested in what Ikram Aliskerov is doing next. Maybe I'm just I don't know. Maybe I'm being cynical and maybe I'm just being salty because he ruined my pick. But at the same time, I just don't care. I just don't care. He's not exciting for me to watch. This fight was not very exciting either. Bruno Ferreira does not get it done, and we miss again. Moving into the next fight, we had Asu Mabayev and Charles Johnson. Now this was, in my opinion, a pretty good fight. Almabayev gets it done, or I picked him to get it done via decision. He wins by round 3 submission. Suloev stretch. I think I've only ever seen one Suloev stretch, and it was like Wes Schultz on the Contender Series. I'm a buy money line at minus 245 cashes. I was super confident in this pick, but wow, that was the best Asu has ever looked. I think by far. He needs a shot in the top 5 next, and I really like Tetsuro Taira. Let Tetsuro Taira get ready. Take as much time off as he needs, and then Asu Mabayev, that's a shot inside the top 5. Stylistically, it makes sense. Ranking-wise, it makes sense. I think that's a good one to get done. For Charles Johnson, I don't know what's next, bro. It's just really inconsistent. He's just going to have to be like a prospect, not a prospect ruiner, a fraud checker. I don't know. I don't know what Charles Johnson is going to do. It's just probably going to be a top 15 gatekeeper kind of role for Charles Johnson, it looks like, because he can't beat anybody that's within that upper echelon unless they are unranked in a prospect. So Asu Mabayev, though, it cannot be understated how well he looked. Great stuff from him. Even on the feet, he looked great. He was staying up Charles Johnson. It had me nervous for a second, but he just really took over this fight. Everywhere it went, the grappling looked great. Submission looked great at the very end, so good stuff from him, especially getting an actual finish. It's one thing to kind of drag and dominantly win a decision, but to finish it off the way he did, I think is super impressive and should for sure get him a shot inside the top 5. People are saying Horiguchi. I don't think so. I don't like that. I think Tetsuro Taira makes a little bit more sense. So let Taira rest up and then book him and Almabayev. I think it's a great fight. The next fight on the card, we had Nazim Sadikov and Mateus Camilo. I picked Nazim Sadikov to win by round 2 TKO. And he doesn't. Mateus Camilo wins via round 1 KO. This was an unfortunate one. I feel like, to be honest, there's not really anything to break down. It was a big miss on my part, but at the same time, Nazim just got caught. He got caught coming in with the straight. I'm not upset about the finish or about the stoppage either. I think he was finished. He curled up. He wasn't trying to grab onto Mateus Camilo. He was simply defensive and getting shots landed on him. I did not think that this was a bad stoppage at all. The team just gets caught and gets finished. And Mateus Camilo, good win for him for sure. I'm not sure if that fight really plays out that way if they were to fight again in 2 weeks. I think if they fight 10 times, Mateus probably wins a couple of those times, and this was just one of those times. Big miss on my part, but That's just MMA, I guess. The next fight on the card was Cheryl Magomedov and Michelle Pereira. I picked Chara Bullet to win this one via round 2 TKO. Michelle Pereira almost gets this one done via round 1 TKO, catches Chara Bullet. He went in, I think, for a body kick, and Michelle just steps in and jabs him, knocks him down, almost TKOs him. Chara recovered really well and was able to steal the fight back. But at the same time, it was yucky. Had fun moments, but it took 3 minutes of fight time for those fun moments to happen. Michelle should probably retire. Not sure what he's going, not really sure what he's going to do now. You've lost pretty much 5 of 5. The Zachary Reese fight was rough. He's gassing out after 2 minutes. It's just not a good look for Michelle Pereira. And I don't know what's next for Chara Bullet, but I don't really care because he's not putting on these exciting fights, unfortunately. He has such a dynamic skill set. It's just not panning out to results. And neither of these guys seemed to care that they had fists to use. They only wanted to kick. This was not a fun fight. It had fun moments, but it just wasn't enough for me. Chara Bullet does win convincingly, though, in round 2 and 3. So good stuff from him, I guess, but I guess we'll see what's next for him. The main event, Rafael Fiziev and Torres. Now, this was fun. This was a good fight. I picked Rafael Fiziev to win by round 3 TKO. He wins by round 2 TKO. Fiziev moneyline at minus 110 cashes. I think it evened out. It was minus 115 completely at fight time, but you probably could have gotten him at underdog money on certain betting apps. Torres and round 1 and 2, no, and Fiziev over on strikes. I think he only had 25. But I said in the breakdown, to move into the takeaways, Torres is still super dangerous, but he will have to be more clean if he wants to win some of these fights. Fiziev gets a much needed win. Not sure why we're calling out Charles, though. Not sure what that's all about. That's not happening for sure. At least it better not. But Manuel Torres, super dangerous. I said this in the breakdown. His recklessness worried me, and Fiziev's countering ability. I know he didn't really get countered a ton. I think Manuel Torres really hurt Fiziev at the end of round 1, but it ends up not really mattering. Fiziev lands a really nasty spinning back kick to the head of Torres, drops him, and then finishes him with punches. Good one for Fiziev. He gets it done in Azerbaijan, too. So good stuff there. It was a fun main event. Not really much else to say about it, though. Went pretty fast. It was a good way to cap off the card. Made it not seem completely awful, especially after the co-main event kind of dragged. But good stuff from Rafael Fiziev for sure. To recap everything bet-wise, the only high-value straight that hit was Matsumoto decision. We continue to kind of plot around with these picks. Not great. Not great. Only 1 of 7, 1 of 8, 1 of 7 high-value straights hit. I guess 1 hit, maybe. It would have been really nice to have that Konofli KO hit. Parlay legs-wise, though, Nazim Sadikov really screwed everything up, and the Bruno Ikram not going the distance. That was just one that, maybe like the Johnny Walker and Dominic Reyes fight. It's like maybe I should have seen it coming. But that fight really stung. That one going the distance really stung. But felt pretty confident about, 5 of those money lines. Sadikov kind of gets walked into. I don't want to say fluky KO, but it feels kind of that way. So not overly disappointed with how everything turned out. If you would have asked me, though, at the end of the card how well I did, I probably would have told you I lost everything. Ended up completely breaking even. I'm not even sure how that happened, though. I'll have to go back and actually check. I didn't even check. I was just like, all right, cool. Nothing was lost. So decent stuff there. Picks wise, I am 129 and 60 on numbered events, 44 and 30 still. Fight night events, 74 and 41. But the main events does move up to 9 and 6. Thank God Rafael Fiziev gets it done. We were one bad pick away from hitting 500 almost. So good stuff from Rafael. Thank you guys so much for watching. Sorry if I'm kind of rushing through this video. Something feels a little bit off today. Can't quite catch my breath. So if I was a little jittery throughout that, my bad. No UFC this weekend, but then we got the fucking Conor McGregor card. We're going to be breaking down a Conor McGregor fight in the big 2-6. It's really happening. Everyone needs to enjoy 4th of July. Have fun with that. And then next week, it's time to lock in because, we all know what's coming. So I'm juiced for it. We'll have a breakdown for that. recapping everything. I'll get a couple videos out in between then as well. We'll see. I'm trying to do a couple things. If you guys have any suggestions, text me because I guarantee you everybody that's watching this knows me personally. If you don't by chance, thank you. But thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys probably within the midweek, if not by the weekend. See ya.